ECU?
R.
Do you bleed purple and gold? Are you ready to hoist the colors?
Hoist the colors!
It's time for the most in-depth look into the world of ECU athletics. Welcome to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Here's Stephen Igo.
All right, welcome in. Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday, Hump Day edition, June 18th, as we continue to move along through the month of June, get closer to July. We will continue on our football opponent previews. East Carolina football, just 71 days away. Bryce Weaver was our featured player on hoistthecolors.net. It's season number 71 as we continue that countdown. We'll hit Tulsa and Tulane today on the football opponent preview front, so looking forward to that. And also the Sun Belt reaches out to East Carolina. What does that mean? Well, not really a whole lot, but we will discuss that later in the program. All right, we'll kick off today's show with a huge guest, a frequent guest, a man that many Pirate fans know quite well. He is Corey Glore. He's the Tulane play-by-play voice, formerly the ECU baseball play-by-play voice. And Corey, first off, welcome back. And I do have to say I am sorry on behalf of all of Pirate Nation for ending Tulane season a little bit earlier than you guys hoped to.
Well, it's great to be with you. Thanks for calling me huge. We're off to a great start here, Stephen, because I took that as my physical being and not just the
That was 100% what I was going for.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've been told I have my own orbit, and that makes sense. And listen, your apology is taken and under advisement. No, I mean, it's what can you say? I mean, congrats to the Pirates on that game and making it to where'd they go? Conway, I guess, to the regional final there. That was you get beat. I mean, that was pretty simple. Like ECU was far and away the best team of those 9 innings, and they won the title. And that, as we have seen throughout the 11-year history of that championship game, it's about who was playing their best ball that week of the year. And East Carolina played their best ball of the year that week of the year, and they deserve to win it.
And, Corey, that means you got a little bit more downtime before the transition into football, which, at times can be a good thing. And, as a broadcaster, how do you try and, reset a little bit? Because, as you well know, once late July, August hits, it is nonstop basically until this time next year. So are you looking forward to football already? Or are you trying to just settle down a little bit, take some time off? Just how have you addressed that early in the offseason?
As soon as we got back to New Orleans after Clearwater, I did not say a word for 2 weeks to anybody, not even to myself. I refused to have any sort of utterance out of my vocal cords. And then I went to jury duty last week, so I spent a lot of time doing that. So that was exciting. But no, listen, I am fully rested and recharged after the grind of calling 100 games or so this past year. I'm ready to go. I'm ready for August 30th here in town. I was just back on campus yesterday because I knew the basketball team was getting some workouts done. And so I swung over there to watch a little bit of Ron Hunter's group. And so, yeah, I am, give me more. Let's rerun this bad boy.
Let's rerun it. So Tulane and East Carolina, they'll match up this fall. It'll be a Thursday night game, October 9th. We're previewing another Thursday game, Tulsa, later in the program today, but this will be a big one, I think, for the Pirates and the Waves. So just before we dive into the specifics, Corey, just the overall vibes going into year 2 of John Summerall in New Orleans, kind of how would you describe that right now?
I think it is, by and large, optimistic. I think the fan base here is now wrapping their arms around a lot, which is this is an unprecedented run of success here over the last 3 years and making 3 straight conference championship games and being a program that is appealing for a coach like John Summerall to leave where he was and come here and then stay here despite getting some interest from Power 4 gigs, mainly North Carolina last year. And wrapping their arms around that while also wrapping their arms around the fact that this roster has turned over yet again. This is a program that has lost almost every major playmaker on the offensive side of the ball from last year's team. And now needing to replace all of that, but also kind of feeling that things are in the spot they need to be in where they can restock and reload and retool on a year-to-year basis to keep contending for an American and be in the mix for a top 25 discussion. And so it's been a lot for this fan base to, I think, wrap their head around that this program is succeeding like they have been, and you're seeing so much change year in and year out with how the team looks. But they'd rather be in this spot than in where they were for most of this century when we turned to the 2000s, and that was just fighting for bowl eligibility. This is the spot that this fan base has dreamed that this program would be in for a long, long time.
And look, from the outside looking in, it feels like Tulane is near the top of the league in terms of NIL presence, all that sort of stuff. I know they don't have the most fans in the world, but it feels like from a wealth perspective, they have some pretty wealthy fans who donate a lot to NIL. Like internally, do you get the feeling that they're pretty well supported there, and that's obviously led to some of this success? It just seems like they're investing more in athletics than maybe they ever have.
That's right, Igo. And, it's the fan base numbers, are not as prevalent as you see in other places, even around the league. But the alumni base is so widespread, countrywide, worldwide. And you're right, there are plenty of deep pockets coming out of Tulane. And what's happened now, and making a run to a Cotton Bowl championship has certainly accelerated this in line with what's happening in the world now of college sports. But now there's a much stronger alignment between the athletic department and the school. And that has not been the case here at Tulane for pretty much its existence. It famously left the SEC a couple generations ago, and that has still lingered in the back of a lot of people's heads here as this run has happened. That alignment is there now, and so you're seeing a lot more cohesion across campus about what a strong athletics department can mean to a university's profile, and then using the resources that exist university-wide to help boost this up. And now the NIL being brought in-house, Tulane was very early about getting that organized, so they're ready to go in a couple weeks to ship this within the department itself. And they're behind Memphis and South Florida in that department, but that's about it here in this league, and they're catching up. And then you got a new indoor facility that'll be open by camp starting in August. And so, yeah, you are seeing some major pushes across the board to support football, to support athletics here.
Visiting with Corey Glore, play-by-play voice at Tulane, continuing our ECU football opponent previews. So looking at Tulane, look, it kind of went viral when Darian Menzo, left to go to Duke. He talked about that earlier this week. It turns out where he said he had to make the move for some financial freedom, and widely reported he's getting a 2-year, $8 million deal, which is crazy at Duke. Those two teams will play this season, by the way, but just losing Menza, and then how did that situation go down, and also the replacement for him? What is that looking like right now at Tulane?
Yeah, I mean the how it went down, I think, was a little volatile here. I mean, to be honest, there was not a ton of opportunity for Tulane to even sit down with Darian and his his team and his agent about maybe keeping him around. It was a very, you don't, maybe you have better access, Igo, about who signs right away out of transfer portal windows and whatnot. But as soon as the portal window opened, Darian was in Durham and he had signed pretty quickly. He was one of the first out of the gate. So this was definitely in the works for weeks at the end of last season. And so Tulane never really had an opportunity to make a pitch to maybe keep him around. They were not going to reach that number that he is allegedly getting at Duke. And so he made the decision he needed to make for himself as a person and as a player. And Tulane will see him up close, as you mentioned, in week 3 here in New Orleans. That has certainly left them out of pocket a little bit in terms of their quarterback room, and they've brought in a ton of guys through the portal to try and fill that. And as we sit here, there's not a real answer as to who will get the first snaps of the year against Northwestern on August 30th. You brought in a Donovan Leary, a Caden Samanza in the portal, as well as a TJ Finley before spring ball started. Finley's no longer with the roster, and they bring in Brendan Sullivan, the Iowa transfer, after spring ball. And those are your three guys that are still battling for the job. I think Sullivan is probably a slight leader in the clubhouse right now, but Samanza is the only guy of those three that has real reps under his belt. So I don't know how that's going to look. But on top of that, you lose one of the best running backs in the nation. Mekhi Hughes goes to Oregon. Your top tight end, Alex Bauman, now at Miami. Your top three wide receivers are all gone, and only two of your five starting offensive linemen from last year return. There are a ton of questions on the offensive side of the ball right now for the way to figure out.
And, I think a big reason why people still believe in Tulane is defensively. We know Summerall has a outstanding background on that side of the ball. Just as an outsider, I would assume they're going to be very good on defense once again in 2025, just based on his pedigree. But would you agree with that, internally, and then how is it looking personnel-wise on that side of the ball?
Yeah, this is going to be the strength of the group, maybe all year, but certainly at the start when they figure out what they have offensively, because they do. I mean, there are some voids there as well. They lost two of their defensive backs to the draft this past year. Caleb Ransall went to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Micah Robinson went to the Packers. Then you had another guy graduate on the other side of the field. They have voids on the back end of the defense, but up front, which is where Tulane was exceptionally strong last year, a lot of that group returns, and they bring in a couple of big big impact guys in the transfer portal. Mo Westmoreland, the edge rusher from UTEP, is the guy that's jumped out to me right away in spring ball about what he could potentially mean. They will roll very deep up front, and the linebacking core, by and large, has stayed intact from last year. And so the front two levels of this defense are pretty well in a good spot. The safeties return too, so way in the back end, you're pretty well set. There are far less questions on the defensive side of the ball, and that side of the ball, you're right, has been John Summerall's bread and butter. And so that will be the strength of this Tulane team, regardless of what the offense looks like. If they're going to win games early on in the year, they're going to be holding teams to 20 points or less. And that's going to be the method early on for this team to win what is a very tricky non-conference slate.
Yeah, I was about to get into that. I like the non-conference schedule because, you're playing three Power 4 teams. You get Northwestern at home, which, look, they've been up and down in recent years, but that's a winnable game. Duke, we just mentioned the Mensa situation. You do get them in New Orleans as well, so that should be a fun environment. That'll be an ESPN2 nationally televised game. At South Alabama is really tricky for people to understand. They were a really good program last year, have been good the last few years. And then at Ole Miss. So, non-conference-wise, you certainly have some intrigue, Corey. No shortage on that. So just how important is coming out of that 2-2 the goal, 3-1? What do you think is fair?
Yeah, I think 2-2 is the goal there, to be completely honest. Now, it's a non-conference slate that sets you up nicely for November if you're in the spot that Tulane would like to be in, not just within the league, but just nationally speaking. That you're one of, I think it's 12 teams in the league that doesn't have an FCS non-conference opponent, and you got three Power 4s on there. And so, it is a brutal first month of the year. And I'm glad you mentioned that the South Alabama road trip. That's also a pretty big rivalry down here. And so that's going to be a Saturday night game in Mobile. That's going to be rather temperamental. And so if you can get 2-2 out of those first four games, I think with all the questions this team has offensively, that sets you up really, really well for the American season. And the American Conference season, by and large, is kind of front-loaded too. At least kind of the first two-thirds of that conference year are where the big hitters lay for Tulane. And so it's going to be a very tricky front end of the year for Tulane. And then you get to November and the schedule kind of eases off the throttle a little bit, at least on paper. But if you can survive those first 4 weeks at 500 at the minimum, then I think this team is in an exceptionally good spot to make another run towards first weekend of December.
No doubt that stretch in conference play, starting with ECU on October 9th, and Army at UTSA at Memphis, 4 games in a row. Pretty interesting stretch there. All right, Corey, last thing for you. All right, so when I go to New Orleans in October, and it'll be Wednesday, October 8th, I know you're probably not a huge fan of Bourbon Street, but I usually go just to have a good time. Razoo Bar is my spot. Are you willing to meet me there on Wednesday night, since we have a late kickoff on Thursday?
Yes, for a drink, and then I will try and pull you to much better locations in this exceptional city of New Orleans.
All right, so we'll start there, and we'll see where we end up.
Yeah, whether you come with me, that's up to you. If you want to be a creature of habit and you want to be a tourist, that's fine. I can take you to the places that really New Orleans is built off of and means the world to this incredible city. But if you just want to be tourist, you can be tourist. I will let you be. I will meet you for a drink, and then I will leave you on just that horrendous street known as Bourbon Street. And I will go to the places that really bring the best out of the city.
There you go. Well, we'll see you there, Corey. It's a date, man. We'll see you in early October, man. Looking forward to it, as always. Appreciate the time, Corey, and looking forward to the football season, man. Enjoy some more downtown this summer first.
Hey, enjoy your upcoming time away here in the summer, and I will see you in a couple months. Thanks, Igo.
Absolutely. That's Corey Glore, one of the best in the business, no doubt, play-by-play voice at Tulane. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll hit Tulsa on the other side. We'll preview the Golden Hurricane, that matchup as well, which will be the Thursday following the ECU Thursday game in New Orleans. And then later in the program, we're talking Sun Belt reaching out to the Pirates as well. This is Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday.
The team of Flatlands Jessup is working overtime to help ensure that Eastern North Carolinians like you get the health insurance help you need this open enrollment period. New legislation passed, meaning more people than ever qualify for affordable coverage. Let us help you today.
Are you ready to tackle those yard and garden projects? Come by East Carolina Tractor and Fleet, your local Coyote dealer, and check out their great selection of residential and commercial Coyote tractors. From zero-turn mowers to compact tractors to skid steer loaders, they've got you covered. Some with 0% financing for qualified buyers. Stop by your hometown Coyote dealer, East Carolina Tractor and Fleet, across from the Pitt County Fairgrounds, or online at ectfleet.com. East Carolina Tractor and Fleet. We dig dirt.
Tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
At Parker's Barbecue, our family has been serving your family for 3 generations.
For that, we say thank you.
Blessing families every Thursday. Kids eat free all day. That's the Parker's way.
Legendary food served from our 3 locations. Always quick, always delicious. That's the Parker's way.
At Parker's, our mission is to impact our customers through Christ-like service in a way that feeds them both physically and spiritually. That is the Parker's way.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Healthwise Pharmacy rounds the bases with all of your infusion, retail, compounding, and medical equipment needs. Locally owned and operated by pharmacist Marcy Parker, Healthwise has grown to be your most trusted provider for infusion services. Currently providing in-home or on-site infusions in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Visit Healthwise Pharmacy at 615B South Memorial Drive or call 252-295-0059 to speak to a patient service representative to find the option that best suits your needs.
Tired of the 1-800 numbers advertising Medicare products? Flatlands Jessup has 6 offices all throughout Eastern North Carolina. Get face-to-face help from our local award-winning licensed team. Stop by today. Flatlands Jessup, your whole world covered.
Climb aboard as we set sail and hoist the colors.
Arr, matey!
Back to the show with Steve and Igo on 94.3 The Game.
Welcome back into Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday, June 18th edition of the program. We're rolling right along on our football opponent previews. We did Tulane earlier in the show. We're now on to Tulsa, which ECU will host on a Thursday night on October 16th. We welcome in Larry Lewis from Inside Tulsa Sports, part of the Rivals and now on 3 Network. Larry, how is the offseason going for the Golden Hurricane with a new coach at the helm, and Trey Lamb?
I think everyone's real enthusiastic about him. I know Lamb wasn't the first choice, when they hired him, but it looks like he may be the best choice because he's very young, he's very enthusiastic, he's getting tons of transfers in. He's actually, for next year, he's having a real impressive commitment list coming up. So he's been impressive so far. I mean, the proof will be when the season starts, but people really like him a lot.
Visiting with Larry Lewis, he covers Tulsa for Inside Tulsa Sports. And yeah, look, pretty familiar with Trey Lamb around these parts. And, he's from this area of the country, and he actually was the coach at Gardner-Webb when East Carolina faced off a couple years ago. And look, we know here in North Carolina, Gardner-Webb, a very tough program to run. He did a phenomenal job there, all things considered, a couple 7-win seasons in a row, and 7-5 year in his 1 year at East Tennessee State. So I'm kind of with you, like, it wasn't the biggest name hire, Larry, but I kind of like the hire when they made it. Do you feel like it's kind of grown on some people there as they've gotten to know Trey?
Yeah, I think so. I think people are very enthusiastic. I think he's winning people over. He's a young, enthusiastic guy. He's got a good personality, but he's also a matter of fact about he doesn't seem to BS a lot. So I think all signs are that Tulsa could have you never know what type of season they'll have, but I think he's going to turn things around. I'd be surprised if this year or next year they at least by next year they have a winning year. They could have a winning year this year, but I think that it's going in the right direction.
Talking Tulsa football, and we'll talk about just some of the offseason headlines with you, Larry. And look, I know that the portal has been tough for everybody in college football, but it seems to have really hurt Tulsa. Look, anytime you have a coaching change as well, at least as far as outgoing guys, you're going to lose a lot. So how much did they lose, and then how much has Trey been able to replicate or replace that with some of the incoming players?
Well, he's big on talking about him. I just talked to him last about a little over a week ago. He talks about how he has 56 newcomers, I think 36 in the portal, and 20 freshmen. They really haven't lost. To me, they haven't lost that much in the portal. Most of the people they've lost in the portal, they really weren't that good. I mean, now one guy who had a good game against you guys went to Colorado, which he would have been gone regardless of the coach. And he was a freshman who I think he had like 6 catches for about 140 yards or something. He went to Colorado, but he would have been gone anyway. He was a freshman that got 31 passes and really came on. So but outside of that, the people they've lost in the portal, I don't really look at as much of a loss, to be honest with you. They weren't very good last year. I mean,
right.
The game, Tulsa played against you guys last year. I mean, it was 38-31. Tulsa could have, had a good chance at winning that game. 6 of the 12 games last year were losses by over 30 points. And they weren't just losses, they were blowouts in the first half. So, losses that were, how some losses might wind up 30 points, it's a close game, and it gets away. Well, these were blowout losses. So that's one of the reasons you make the switch in coaches from Kevin Wilson is because they were terrible. I mean, 3-9, it's worse than 3-9 because when you have 6 losses of 30 or more points and they're blowouts, I mean, it's pretty bad. So But I think he's bringing in some good players. We'll see. But, it'll be interesting to see how things go this year.
You mentioned it's also coming off a 3-9 season, but Trey Lamb known for his offense. And I tell you what, I was impressed with Kirk Francis as a freshman when he came in against East Carolina. I believe the 2023 season finale would have been, and kind of lit him up.
Yes.
So he's back. Is he expected to be the starter?
Yeah, Kirk. He had competition at the when Trey Lamb came in. There was a redshirt freshman quarterback they liked, and he just completely won the competition. The other guy transferred, so he is the quarterback. I know he had a really good game in the season finale in 2023 against you guys. He's an impressive young quarterback. He was an interesting story because he was a walk-on. That year, he's a true freshman, even though the staff liked him. They had a new staff, the Kevin Wilson area, but they didn't know him well enough to give him a scholarship. But they knew they were going to put him on scholarship by, after a few weeks because he was that impressive. So, and he winds up playing 4 games, the final 4 games of the year, playing most of those 4 games and keeping his redshirt year. And he did really well. And going into last year, they were excited, but last year it just unraveled. The offensive line was terrible, and just the whole season was just, how when things go bad, they were just going bad. And he was banged up a little bit last year, so he was splitting time some, but he still led him in passing. But he's the undisputed starter right now. There's really not much competition for him.
Visiting with Larry Lewis, who reports on the Golden Hurricane for Inside Tulsa Sports. And Larry, how about the defense? It was a struggle last year. What are realistic expectations on that side of the ball this season with the new staff in place?
Well, he's most concerned about the secondary because the secondary was torched last year, and he says that's his biggest concern on defense. Even though he has some players he likes, they have a good young freshman guy who's a freshman cornerback last year who could be really good. He likes his corners. But he just thinks it's a little unsettled. Doesn't mean he thinks it's not going to be good, but secondary and offensive line are most areas of where he needs to have the most progress in fall camp. He said an interesting thing about his defensive line. Their run defense was terrible last year. They're giving up 200 yards a game, like 5 yards a carry. He said in watching every tape from last year, he said the defensive line was terrible last year, and he thinks the defensive line is one of his top 2 positions this year. So that's quoting him. So that'll be interesting. They're mostly newcomers coming in, a lot of transfers. But he seems to like what he has brought in, and so, we'll see.
Larry Lewis with us, covers Tulsa for the Rivals and On 3 Network. And Larry, look, we have a show here on 94.3 The Game with Steve Logan, longtime ECU coach, and obviously spent some time in the Tulsa area as well. And he's kind of referenced there's some big money in that area. And if people wanted to get behind the NIL, that they could. Just what's kind of your sense of NIL, how that has impacted Tulsa, and if some of their biggest owners have been interested or trying to, put some money into it?
Well, they have put some money in it. The athletic director has estimated that Tulsa is in the top 3rd NIL in the conference. So I think they're really embracing it now. They weren't really doing much last year, the previous year, but they've started to put money in. They said the athletic director Justin Moore says that they're in the top 3, top 3rd of the AAC. So I think they're doing pretty decently on that. Obviously, when you have a player like like the receiver they lost last year, if someone's really good, they're how the state of the portal. If they're going to go to a bigger conference, then there's probably not much you can do. But as far as being competitive in the conference, I think they're in good shape.
All right, Larry, a few more things with you. We'll get you out of here. And looking at the win total, Vegas not high on Tulsa. 2.5 wins is the over-under, which I guess makes sense given coming off a couple of down seasons. And look, the schedule is, I would say, manageable, but also pretty tough. Like at Oklahoma State, obviously going to be a tough game. In conference, they draw Tulane, at Memphis, at ECU, have to go to Army. So, like, the schedule's not easy, but the start of this season, as I look at it, Abilene Christian at New Mexico State and then Navy at home, that would seem to be their opportunity to kind of build some momentum. Just what are realistic expectations for a win total this year from your mind?
I mean, I think I'm not seeing 2 wins. I mean, I think that's a real low expectation. I would be surprised if I think the low end's probably 4 wins. I think the high end they could do might be a surprise, be 6 or 7 wins. I think realistically 5 or 6 wins. They're starting off Abilene Christian. They're going to win. The New Mexico State game is an important game because New Mexico State, even though it's on the road, they're not that good. That'll tell a lot about the team if they win that game. Because if you get out of that 2-0, then it's looking good. You're not going to Navy. They do terribly against Navy every year, and so I think they're going to lose against Navy, and obviously they're not going to win at Oklahoma State. So. But then Tulane, you never know. With the teams, it's hard to tell. Tulane's been good, but are they going to be good this year? I don't know. I mean, from year to year, you don't know whether any of these teams are good. So to me, I think probably 5 and 7 is probably realistic.
Last thing for you, Larry. How does Tulsa kind of view itself within the American and FBS football right now? Like, it's an interesting school, like a really small school. I toured the campus last year during the game, but prestigious school. And just with the way college football is going, trying to keep up with the arms race. Just are they happy in the American? Do they strive for more? Just kind of your take on the overall vibe from Tulsa athletics.
I think the American's a good fit for them, but obviously with a changing conference landscape, which changes seemingly every year, you have to be if the conference seems to be going down, you have an opportunity to get in a better conference. They would, but I think if it's staying put right now, I think it's a decent fit for them. You just have to keep your options open, obviously, as obviously you do at East Carolina. I mean, because you don't know what from year to year who's going to be in what conference and what opens up. But they'll, I think, for right now, I think the American's a good fit.
He's Larry Lewis. Larry, we appreciate the time. Inside Tulsa Sports. It'll be Thursday, October 16th, Tulsa at ECU. Looking forward to the game, man. Appreciate the insight on the Golden Hurricane.
All right. Thanks. Thanks, and good luck with your season this year.
Appreciate it so much. That's Larry Lewis. We'll be right back on the other side with more Hoist the Colors.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human. About creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leyva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors today. We want to be your trusted choice agency.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cook-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Storm season is approaching. North Carolina weather can damage your roof, and before long, a small leak can turn into a big problem. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so protect it with Wells Home Improvements.
We work with all insurance companies for a hassle-free roof installation experience. Call us today and get 10% off your roof installation when you mention this commercial.
252-227-8403 or visit us online at wellshomeimprovements.com. Wells Home Improvements. Local, honest, dependable.
Want fresh, homegrown produce? Then look for Peden's Junior Produce. Peden's Junior Produce, a mobile produce stand, is on Memorial Drive beside Parker's Barbecue in Greenville and open Thursday and Friday 10 to 7, Saturday 8 to 7, and Sunday 11 to 6. Choose from seasonal produce like collards, squash, onions, potatoes, corn, and the list goes on. Support your local farmers and enjoy locally grown produce. To find out what's in season, check out Peden's Junior Produce on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Harvesting happiness one crop at a time.
This is Hoist the Colors Radio with Stephen Igo.
Yes, that was so good.
On 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday. We'll try to pick the energy back up, back in studio. Appreciate Corey Glore and Larry Lewis. Corey, play-by-play voice at Tulane, and Larry Lewis, who covers the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. And I do have to say, we got some comments that said Larry didn't have the most energy in the world. I do feel like he was a perfect fit for Tulsa because, like, Tulsa is just your most low-key, small school ever, Philip. So, Philip Ilkinen with us producing today's show. And I don't know. Like, I mean, if I had to get a guy who just writes and is kind of boring, I feel like somebody from Tulsa is a nice fit.
Yeah, I mean, from what you and Brady said, it sounds like that's kind of how the city is.
It's very sleepy.
You guys were trying to find, like, restaurants to go to and places were closed.
Everything was closed.
Yeah, but he was very insightful, and at the end of the day, that's why we have guys on. So we appreciate Larry coming on. I think, Corey sets the bar so high. That's part of the problem. And, nobody's going to live up to Corey Glore. So,
And I'm sure if we would have got the Tulsa play-by-play announcer, he would have brought a little more energy. But, Larry does a tremendous job getting to the weeds. And like you said, his job is to be insightful. He was insightful. In fact, Philip, he was so insightful that I just laid some money down. And I think you did as well.
Yes, we did.
On the Tulsa win total. 2.5 is not many wins. He said it himself. Tulsa was a horrific football team last year. How many wins did they have? 3. I've got more faith in Trey Lamb to go in there and win 3 games than many things in college football this year. So I laid $10 on the Tulsa over win total. Now, I did not like the juice from DraftKings, minus 175, but this is going to be a fun bit on the show that we're going to follow all year now. We are all in. And look, Abilene Christian Open, that's a dub. At New Mexico State in week 2, we're going to be watching that game closely.
Heck yeah, we are, man. New Mexico State's been to like one bowl game in the last 34 years. Come on. Aggies stink.
Now, after that, it gets a little bit sketchy. Navy, Oklahoma State, Tulane, Memphis, ECU. But Temple at home, October 25th. That's winnable.
There you go. There's our 3.
There's our 3. And, at FAU is not unwinnable. And I would say UAB at home to close the season. If it comes down to that, I feel pretty good about it. Trent Dilfer's probably fired by then.
He probably's gone. We'll talk to him at Media Day, and we'll never see him again.
I'm seeing 4 wins here. So I'm riding Golden Hurricane, baby.
I did too. Let's do it. It's going to be fun.
Ride with us if you're a bold
Does that mean we have to add them to our pick'em sheet every week too?
We probably should, honestly. At least for the winnable games.
Yeah.
The New Mexico State line, we'll definitely pick
Bobby's going to be like, why in the heck are we picking this game?
We'll find a way to incorporate it somehow. So we'll see. And who knows, maybe we'll get into more win totals as we continue on this opponent preview. All right, let's talk about the news of the day, if we can even call it that. So David Schultz, who is the Locked On Sunbelt podcast host, he had a video this morning with a tweet that said, quote, "A source tells me the Sun Belt has reached out to ECU Athletics to gauge their interest in joining the conference." So I did some follow-up here. I can 100% confirm a Sun Belt representative did reach out to ECU. It's not like it was a formal conversation where they got into negotiations about joining the league. It was more of a, hey, we're probably going to lose Texas State to the Pac-12, which is a whole nother conversation that we could go into, which is a little ridiculous. But either way, the Pac-12 needs to get to 8 football playing members. Texas State will be the 8th. And so the Sun Belt kind of is doing their due diligence here, reaching out to potential candidates. They reached out to ECU, and I think it was a pretty short conversation from the standpoint of, hey, look, we like what the Sun Belt's about with the regional rivalries, the local fan bases, but from a monetary perspective, it makes no sense for ECU to join the Sun Belt right now. So nothing will come of this. I don't expect anything to come of this, and it shouldn't. And I don't blame the Sun Belt for trying to go this route either, because if you're the Sun Belt, East Carolina would be an ideal fit for the league. But from ECU's perspective right now, the financial aspect of it is this. The AAC media rights deal runs through the 2031-2032 academic year. That deal, which is with ESPN, is worth $1 billion total, $83.3 million per year. Basically, the teams are getting around $7 million a year from the TV deal. The Sun Belt, by comparison, has a TV contract through 2030-31, which is paying their schools $1 million per year or thereabout. So that's a $7 million or $6 million difference. Obviously, you multiply that over that time frame. That's a lot of millions to leave on the table. On top of that, ECU would have to pay a substantial exit fee to the American to leave the league. So financially, it makes zero sense. Now, come 2030-31, if things are looking much different, if the conferences are a lot more similar in TV value for the next contracts, then maybe this is a more real conversation. But right now, Philip, from a monetary standpoint, I just want people to understand it would make zero sense for ECU to leave for the Sun Belt, and that's how ECU is looking at it as well.
Yeah, it 100% does. And I've had people, both East Carolina fans and people outside of East Carolina, ask me about the Sun Belt and say, wouldn't it be good for East Carolina? Well, for us, the fans, the media members, 100%. It would be great. We would much rather play Coastal and Appalachian State, and there's Marshall. They're in the Sun Belt now, right? So, teams A that are geographically make more sense than going to Tulsa, and teams B that have more fans than Tulsa. And, this is kind of the head-scratching deal. I don't have a lot of time to go into all this, but when these re-ups do get negotiated, we talked about it before the show. There are two types of college football games. There are college football games that everyone watches, and there are college football games that fans of the Team A and Team B watch. Well, when you're in the group of 5, 9 games out of 10, it's just the fans of the two schools. It is a little surprising that the American has such a larger TV deal than the Sun Belt, because East Carolina is very much an outlier in the American, the fact that it is a big-time fan base. And there are actually probably, and I don't know the exact details of how many people are watching each one of these games, but we do know for a fact, just from their message boards numbers and their donors numbers and all that there are more fans of most of these Sun Belt teams than there are American teams. There's not a lot of people that are subscribed to the Temple message boards or donating to Temple, but there's a lot more doing it to South Alabama. But now I don't know how that's, like I said, transitioning to TV viewership, but you would expect there to be a shift in the early 2030s where either the TV gets moved around or teams jump different conferences, and I think that is potential for ECU. You want to go where the money is, and you hope it's where you're at, and hopefully you can welcome some teams that have real fan bases, because let's be honest, I don't care that Temple's in our conference. I know they used to be a basketball brand, but who really cares? And I don't care about FAU, and I don't care about Tulsa, and probably 3 or 4 other teams that are not coming to mind right now that just don't have fan bases.
Jensen Kidd says, I like the idea of ECU being in a conference with App, Coastal, Southern Miss, and Marshall, but the bottom of the Sun Belt is atrocious, worse than the AAC, not to mention the loss of revenue. Look, I mean, if all things, as you mentioned, Philip, were created equal, like ECU, especially in the East Division of the Sun Belt, App, Coastal, even Georgia Southern, Georgia State, James Madison, Marshall, ODU. That is a natural fit for East Carolina geographically. Now, as he mentions, the west side isn't the best. You've got Louisiana Monroe. You've also got Arkansas State in there. Louisiana at Lafayette has some history. South Alabama's come on strong in recent years. Southern Miss, we know the history there. And then Troy has some history as well. But, it's one of those things. Most of these schools are, you do have an outlier like Texas State and also Georgia State, which are massive enrollment institutions. But a lot of the schools in the American have higher enrollment, higher endowment. They can invest more, and that's why the American has kind of gone the route it has. And then you got the smaller private schools like a Tulsa and Rice, which have some big money as well, versus, in the Sun Belt. I don't even know if they have a private school in the Sun Belt. I believe they're all public institutions, maybe Louisiana.
Let me look up there.
Yeah.
Louisiana Monroe is public.
Yeah, so it's, I don't think the academic standards are the same there in some regards. So the American, I would say, has kind of established itself as a league where you're going to have to invest if you're going to join the American. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to join the league. I know that was an issue with App State joining the league. Obviously, the chance to invest comes with the bigger TV contract, but you also, as an institution, have to be willing to really invest in your product. And so I am very interested to see how these next 5 to 7 years go for both of these leagues, because there's no doubt the American right now is a lot less attractive than it was 3-4 years ago. You've lost SMU, Houston, Cincinnati, UCF in that time span. Those are significant losses. What happens with Memphis? Memphis, I think, is trying its best to move up. I don't know if that opportunity is going to present itself, but if you're ECU in 5 years from now, somehow you're stuck in this American and Memphis is gone, we'll see what happens with USF, Tulane, we hear rumors of them, then I think you certainly consider it. But right now, I think keeping yourself and trying to move to the top of the American to make the leap to a bigger conference, which we've seen the schools I just mentioned do, that's kind of where you want to be. Sunbelt is still a rung below the American, even with the recent history, but you want to try to establish yourself as right now the upper half of the American, upper third, maybe even the front line school or two in these next 5 years. If you can do that, then when craziness happens with Clemson and Florida State, I still ultimately expect them to lead the ACC. You want to be in a good spot. So I think ECU is in the right spot right now, Phillip, and I get there's always going to be talk. Maybe in the future we look at the Sun Belt as something that's more realistic option. But if I'm ECU, I'm trying to win right now in football and basketball. Now is the time to try to make that leap, because I think there's another big realignment happening around the 2030-ish time frame, but we're not quite there yet.
No, we're not. And to your point, if the SEC and the Big Ten are going to start this whole thing,
yep.
And if they do a break-off, they are going to invite X amount of other members. They have that number in their head probably. It's probably not a defined number that are not part of those two conferences right now. Now, like you said, you've already mentioned some of the teams, right? Florida State, Clemson, I think they would happily take North Carolina. If Duke is willing to put up the numbers, they could do that. In an ideal world, you'd want to be invited to that. Is that realistic for East Carolina? I would say it's unrealistic, but I would say it's not probable. But what you do at least hope is when those teams leave, especially if Carolina leaves, the ACC is rooted in North Carolina. The ACC started with 4 of its 8 members being in North Carolina. The ACC headquarters are now in Charlotte. They would probably not shy away from taking an ECU if ECU puts money into football, proves they're ready to compete year in and year out, is willing to throw as much money as it takes. They're going to take the schools who do that, and then they're going to take schools that geographically make sense. Well, ECU automatically does geographically make sense, and you're going to have to replace Florida State, Clemson, and then possibly Carolina, and then so on and so forth. So there's going to be some spots in the ACC, but you just got to be better than everybody else they're looking at.
All right, we'll get a break in. We'll read this comment from Jonathan. It says, how about the American Conference go out and pick up App, JMU, Coastal, and Marshall? That would be huge and would add a lot of benefit to the conference, assuming the money is there. I think those teams would make the leap, but they've got to be willing to invest. And also, if you're the American, you're already at 14 teams. you kind of already have some dead weight, in my opinion. So how big can you afford to get, especially with the TV contract being what it is? They're not going to renegotiate for so much. So a lot of layers to this, but I understand where you're coming from. Certainly that would help out ECU and Charlotte. All right, we'll get a break in. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show after this.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Your roof is a vital part of protecting your home and family from dangerous storms and hurricanes. At Assist Roofing, we install and maintain metal roofing that provides precise protection. Add value to your home while lowering utility costs with a fortified roof to last a lifetime. With 0% financing, grants, and Energy Star Green Roofing tax credit available. Call us to schedule a free consultation so you can weather any storm with confidence.
Make every day electric on the Kawasaki Electro 20 electric balance bike. Maximize the fun with long run times, impressive top speed, and Kawasaki build quality. Easy adjustability and smooth handling make everyday riding more enjoyable. And the standard MTB type tires provide off-pavement capability. The Kawasaki Electro 20 is the electric balance bike that's built to rip. Go to Ron Ayers Motorsports, Memorial Drive north of the airport, Greenville.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's cut in color. And let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
If you are interested in living longer and living stronger, Eastern Physical and Lifestyle Medicine is accepting new patients for a limited time. Finding a caring physician can be a challenge. Dr. Billy Smith is board certified in physical medicine and lifestyle medicine and has been practicing in the area for many years. Call for an appointment now to Eastern Physical and Lifestyle Medicine, 252-364-1108 in Greenville. That number again is 252-364-1108.
Looking for a great deal on a new Nissan?
At Greenville Nissan, we've got a great selection of new Nissans for under $30,000.
The stylish Nissan Sentra, offering top-notch fuel economy. The Nissan Altima, known for its comfort and technology.
The Nissan Kicks, the perfect combination with its compact design and performance. The Nissan Versa, delivering incredible value without compromising on features. And don't forget the Nissan Rogue, an award winner for 10 years in a row. Drive it home just for $22 down and $349 a month.
Visit GreenvilleNissan.com today.
Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
The Pirates play here.
Time to play the game!
This is Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
Welcome back in. Nothing like conference realignment talk in mid-June. We were joking during the break. Philip Pilkington brought in a great idea. We have the transfer portal for players. How about the transfer portal for conferences, Philip? Should we have a whole episode where we should
talk
portal
about
people in and
how
out?
the American has 14 scholarships, and we are going to recruit Coastal and Appalachian State and Southern Miss, and we are going to tell Temple and Rice and, I don't know, FAU that we don't have a scholarship for them next year and that they need to hit the portal.
Maybe we can run that episode either in early August or late June. If we had July, if we were doing our show through July, we'd definitely bring it up. So we'll hit some more conference realignment. We'll probably, I would assume, Friday with Bobby coming in. He's a big picture guy. A big picture guy. We'll probably get into some of that. I did want to mention just, we've kind of gotten away from talking about the NHL and NBA playoffs with it being later into the finals in both categories. But the Florida Panthers did finish it off last night. They beat the Oilers. So Canada has to wait yet again, Philip, for a championship. And Florida back-to-back Stanley Cup titles. Pretty they're just a juggernaut, man. What else can you say other than they've built an incredible team down there?
That's amazing. You got 4 of the last 6 going to the Sunshine State.
It's crazy.
One of those other 2 was Vegas. There's no ice in Vegas either. Colorado being the outlier. But, yeah, man, Paul Maurice has done a great job. Front office has done a great job. They've brought in a lot of talent. They were skating around with the Cup last night. They let first-time Cup winners skate with it first, and there were 4 or 5 guys on that roster who never won a Stanley Cup. Obviously, they went out and got Brad Marchand. He's obviously won one in Boston, 14 years ago. But to go out and acquire a player like that too, he was phenomenal throughout the finals. Scored 6 goals. I was disappointed to watch Florida win it again, but I was sure happy to watch Brad Marchand get him another cup, obviously being a Boston fan. So they've done a great job. They reload, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with for the next few years as well because they got plenty of young guys. There's a few rookies that actually played significant minutes for those guys down the stretch.
Game 6 coming up tonight of the NBA Finals.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, Thursday. My bad. I have it up on my thing. Thursday. Gosh, why do they space this stuff out so much,
Don't
man?
get me started.
Do you think the Thunder wrap it up? Halliburton seems like he's kind of questionable.
That's true. And there's some weird stat. It's like when Tyrese Halliburton scores 20, they've never lost in the playoffs. When he scores less than that, they've only won 3 times, 3 in 100 or something. So I don't know. We'll see. But I kind of feel like it's going 7.
All right, John Moody with a question here at the buzzer. He says, I go as my LSU and Mariners parlay a lock tonight. He says he got both for plus 100. All I'm going to say, John, is best of luck. I would say about the furthest thing from a lock.
Yeah, well, I said the Sox were going to take game 1 and then blow the series, so I feel good about your Mariners pick.
Seattle going up against Crochet. That's going to be tough, although they do have Luis Castillo on the mound. That's, to me, a 50-50 game.
Yeah, it is.
And LSU should be in pretty good shape from a pitching perspective. We'll see. Best of luck. We're out of time. We'll see you at 12 noon on Thursday. Hoist the Colors. Thanks for listening.